be showing you how to make fabulous sparkling fingerless gloves, perfect for mermaids and unicorns alike. And if we're being perfectly honest, they would suit a fairy just as well. For this project, you'll need stretchy fabric, fabric shears, a tape measure, thread, a hand sewing needle, and pins. Optional items include a sewing machine, something to mark with, and a ruler. You'll be cutting out 2 simple rectangles to create your fingerless gloves, but first you'll need to determine the size. To do that, begin by measuring around your palm just above the thumb, and then measure your wrist. Pick a number somewhere between these 2 measurements. Then use the tape measure to determine how long you want your gloves to be on the underside. Note that they will be a little shorter at the back of your hand because of the gather. Because my palm is 7 3/4 and my wrist is 6, I chose 7 for my first measurement. This will be the width of my rectangle. Chosen 8 inches for the finished length of the glove, but I'm adding ½ inch to this to allow for a narrow hem at the top and bottom, so the total length will be 8½ inches. And because these are stretchy, we're not worrying about seam allowances. Now you're ready to cut your rectangles. I'm using a ruler and marking directly on the fabric, but if you haven't had a lot of practice doing this, I would recommend making a paper pattern first and then pinning that to your cloth before you cut around it. I'm using a shimmery lycra, which I'll link to below, but you can use really just about any stretchy fabric for this. This is also a great project for repurposing old sweaters or t-shirts. Once you have your 2 pieces cut out, you'll want to fold the top over about 1/4 inch and stitch. This by hand or by using the zigzag setting on your sewing machine. Now we want to determine where to put our gather. To do this, fold your piece in half lengthwise once, then fold half of it back again. Mark this fold with a pin. From the point you just made, move toward the center of the fabric about ½ or 1 inch to mark a new point. Then remove the first pin. From here, measure about 2½ inches down and mark this spot. Now we're ready to begin our gather. Taking a threaded needle, anchor your thread at the marked spot at the top of your hem. Then, using a running stitch, stitch until you get to the second marked spot. Once you've reached your end point, you can remove both pins. Gently pull the thread until the fabric is gathered, then go back through the gather several times with your threaded needle. Once you feel it secure, you can tie it off with a knot and cut off the excess thread. Don't forget that when you want to repeat this with your second glove and are trying to find your gathering point, you'll want to begin from the opposite side so that your gloves and gathers are mirrored. After you've finished your gathers, fold your glove lengthwise again so that the outside part, or the part of the fabric that you want to show, is together. From the top hem, zigzag or hand stitch about 1½ inches down, and then stop. Then we'll hem our thumb hole by folding the edges back here, and again zigzag or hand stitch the hem down. Work the hem about 2½ inches down on each side, leaving the bottom part of the glove unstitched. It should look something like this. Then, working from the bottom of the glove as shown, begin stitching the seam. Stitch until you reach the opening of the thumb hole you just hemmed. Stitch back and forth a couple times at your stopping point to reinforce the opening. Now you're ready to stitch your bottom hem. Again, fold the edge in about 1/4 to ½ inch and stitch. And as I watch this video, I am reminded to remind you to always practice safety first. I realize my fingers are very close to the needle here, but please know that I did speed this video up. And there you have it. You've just completed your wonderful whimsical fingerless gloves. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Remember to subscribe, like, share, follow, and all of that wonderful stuff.